Day 79. What? So beautiful. Look at this. No filter needed. That's what life can be like from one minute to the next. And if we get too caught up in the isness of the moment, we can get stuck there. And then even when the sun comes back out, we're still stuck back in the clouds. Isn't that the truth? So I continued reading Job this morning. I had to really restrain myself from reading more, this intense conversation between he and his friends. And what came to me was the when we have expectations and reality doesn't meet them. Hey, good Sunday morning. And how that can really create suffering in our lives. And so yesterday we talked a little bit about, sort of trying to let go of their needing an explanation. That's hard. That's hard for us humans. And you can see this as the conversation continues. Even Job is struggling for an explanation. I've done everything. I've lived my life as perfectly as a person can. And yet here I am suffering. There's no explanation for it. So he kind of knows that. And he kind of is accepting that. But because he's engaging in the conversation with his friends, it's like they all just can't let it go. They've got, they're following their brains, their problem solving, meaning making brains, and continuing the discussion. And a lot of what it's focused on is is the human understanding of, if I do good, I get rewarded. That's how we humans generally treat each other, right? You do good, you please me, I'll like you, and then I'll do something nice for you. And then when we also play by what we think are God's rules, taking care of the needy, the widows, the poor, and I do all of that right, then I should have this experience of life. And then reality comes along and smacks you upside the head. And then people almost forget what you were before. Somehow you've changed in their eyes because their brains, their meaning making machines are going, if he was here and having life this way, and then this happened to him, he must have done something wrong. He must not be as perfect as we all thought he was. This is part of what's happening here. And I don't know, and I know there's been a lot of pastors that have done experiments where they come to their own churches dressed as somebody maybe that came in off the streets, and that they're treated differently or maybe even ignored. And those that have even dressed up that way and gone to experience life on the streets for a time in disguise. And, the evidence shows from these experiments, people that have done these things, that they are treated like we treat each other based on outward appearances, by, things lining up and making sense in our head. And if you've done something, then you must have just done something to deserve being there. Or you didn't make a good decision somewhere along the way. I like you, kind of feel sorry for you. I'm going to be kind to you, but I'm still kind of in my head judging you. It's this one-upsmanship or one-down level of helping. And it's hard. As a human, it's hard not to do that. We just have an order of things in our head of how things should be and how things should play out. And every time I'm saying should, that's going back to then you create an expectation in your mind of how things should be. And then when reality doesn't line up to that, we suffer. And we can create that suffering all on our own, but we don't even realize it. Like, you can be in this way of being and you can't even see it. You don't. And if somebody even pointed it out to you, you would be like, no, of course that's wrong. Like, what are you talking about? I have been, in the past decade, doing a lot of work. And my first mentor in this area, she's an author. Yes, I know. Oh my gosh, girl, we should talk. And I have been reading things like this, and I could see bits and pieces of it, but I wasn't ready for the whole thing and how I was even doing this to myself. And I'm still in the process of letting go. And I think as a human, that will just always be the case, because, you know, that's partly how God designed us. And if we can always remember to turn back to Him and going, oh yeah, this is how, like, we are just vessels of life. And yes, He gave us, and part of the blessing and the maybe curse of being human is that we think about life. Like, I'm hearing geese in the background, hearing all the birds. They're just being. They're not blessed with the, oh, today's a nice day, and like thinking about their plans and their future. Like, they just go with reality. They are just in reality. And humans are not that way. But we can be, and once you start having glimpses of it in those experiences, you're like, oh. Anyway, back to my mentors. Byron Katie, and I call authors mentors. They may not know me, but I know them. And so they're my mentors. Byron Katie, who, she's just amazing, wrote a book called Loving What Is. And she has a wonderful website called The Work. She shares it freely. Anyway, if you look up Byron Katie, you'll find her. There's so many others, but a couple I'm going to focus on are, the next two are people that survived Auschwitz. Viktor Frankl, who wrote The Man's Search for Meaning. A lot of people have heard of that, and he even developed a branch of psychology called logos therapy. And then Edith Eger, if you haven't heard of her, she's still alive, and she's amazing. She's in her 90s and didn't write her first book until she was 90, maybe late 80s. Anyway, didn't even get her degree until she was in her 50, start going back to school until she was 50. So inspiring. Edith Eger. And she's written a couple of books, but one, The Gift and Choice. And her book is kind of similar to Viktor Frankl's. And she calls even her a way of treating patients and dealing things with people as choice therapy. And what these two were able to do when confronted with the reality of Auschwitz and their lives, kind of like Job's. It's great one day, next day, everything is taken away. You lose your family. Like, everything is just in a moment, just gone. And how do you not only go on, but how do you thrive? And then that's what Job is up against. So there's a lot of modern day Jobs out there who were able to tap into the power of their mind and realize that they had a choice, that reality is actually up here. And when you can align your reality in here to out there, you can survive. Now, that surviving, and even when I use the word thrive, does not mean it's sunshine and rainbows. But you can coexist with reality in a way that doesn't create I'm going to say, I have to search for my words here. Oh, look, while I'm searching here, you guys can look at the moon. Oh, shoot, you can't see. Oh, there it is. So I got the moon on one side, sunrise on the other. Beautiful. It's cold again. It's back in the 30s. We can cause I was going to say unnecessary pain, and maybe that's even true, but we can turn our experience of pain into something that's positive or negative. So you're not denying that there's pain, but you can actually control the meaning of it. Maybe that's what I mean. So, and I'm going to give us kind of a silly example, but one that I'm going through right now, and I think one that people could relate to. I have started a new fitness program, and it's causing some soreness in my muscles. But because I'm in my mind going, oh, this is a sign that my muscles are changing and growing and the workout is working and I'm getting stronger. Like, I have a positive feeling about my pain and discomfort, right? It's possible. People, when they're fasting, that's part of how they can maybe find a positive feeling about experiencing hunger. They're going from feasting on food to feasting on God and God's word, and using their hunger as a signal to go, spiritually inward and make it mean something. So we have examples that maybe we can kind of begin to understand how this really works, of how we can have a different relationship with life and how we're experiencing it. But there are people that would feel this pain from a workout and go, oh no, I knew exercise was terrible for you. Like, why am I doing this? Who would do this to themselves? They never can get their mind right in the relationship that will help them. Or maybe some people just do it anyway, and they never learn to see the pain as a positive thing, but one that they're just going to have to suck it up and deal with, So but the point is, is that we have a choice. We have a choice. And that's what Viktor Frankl and Edith Eger, even in the much more extreme. Another one is the Russian author who is in the Gulag. Oh, his name is escaping me. Anyway, there's a lot of these very wise people. The author who wrote Unbroken, and the movie was made out of that. If these two books don't resonate with you, there's many others who have experienced this truth and then gone on to apply it in their lives and then share the wisdom. So anyway, that is part of where I went this morning with this whole thing with Job. And then sometimes, in our determination to find meaning, we have choices. And those choices that we decide to go with in this search for meaning can help determine how our relationship with life and our experience of it, and our relationship even with pain or suffering or different things. We do have a choice to some degree. And one of the ways that I also personally struggled with this in the bigger picture emotionally was I moved around a lot as a child, and I didn't have a super stable home. My parents were fighting, there was alcoholism with my dad, like all kinds of, it's just stuff. So as a child, I was like in survival mode. Like, let's just put a happy face on and try to pretend like everything's okay. That was my role in the house, the peacemaker. Like, yeah, I'm fine. You're fine too. I'd go around to everybody, hugging, doing whatever, reassuring. Like, you're fine too. It's okay. We're good. Always looking for the silver lining. I mean, you put me in a situation, I will find the silver lining. It annoys the heck out of some people. But part of what I wasn't doing was really dealing with, internally, I wasn't really dealing with reality as well as it looked like. Like only finding the silver lining, but not seeing the cloud, and all of that, or having unrealistic expectations. I looked at all kinds of people and said, well, this is what a good life looks like. 2 parents that love each other. You live in your one house in one town forever. And this is, and I don't have that. So therefore I'm sort of a victim over here, like poor me, and just struggling and creating a situation where I did not feel at home no matter where I went, and always looking, it almost instilled in me the thing that I guess my parents and my dad did, like, oh, the answer's out there. I'm not happy here, so let's go over there. Always going from here to there, thinking it's going to get better. Or if I buy this or do whatever. My actual feeling of being at home was in the feeling of not being at home, and always searching and looking for the answer over here. It's bizarre the way we can do that to ourselves. Until it finally dawned, I was like, oh, I've created a lot of this drama in my life and in my head. And this, my nervous system was like on fire because of living in a traumatic home as a child. And rather than just acknowledging, hey, it's good to see the silver lining, but it's also good to accept reality and what it was so that you can integrate it into yourself and then deal with life on life's terms. It was a real interesting mixture of, I was choosing to make it mean, and seeing the silver lining. On one hand, I was like choosing and seeing some of the good, but at the same time, underneath that was this turbulence of, this isn't right. This isn't how it should be. Let's go over there. And maybe that's where it'll be. We'll find it over there. I don't know if this is resonating with you, if there's something in your life that might be kind of similar. And we're going to find out more through Job, I'm sure. But there are a lot of wise people out there that have learned to see that life is life. And what your experience of it and your relationship to it is all up here. No matter how somebody else sees you, treats you, whatever evidence you have on the outside, fancy clothes, not very good clothes, fancy car, home, all of it. It's all up here. It's a lot to digest, y'all. So that's why I gave you a few authors if you want to dive into this a little bit further, to start. And, Solzhenitsyn, that's the other guy from Russia, or from that part of the world now, who also, I think his book is much more dense. But anyway, those are the few examples I have if you'd like to, and I'm sure there's much, much more. Actually, I would love if you shared with me additional resources and people and mentors and authors that may have helped you have a better relationship with life and your own brain and your own perception. Okay. Love ya. Bye.